Yo everyone, what's up? It's me again. And today I want to share with you guys what I will probably be league starting with next league. And this is Blood Magic Lightning Strike dual wielding Gladiator. And before you say that I'm crazy, hear me out. I think this build is actually like pretty reasonable. And the choices that I made in this build, even though I think they may be unconventional, I think ultimately they make sense. So hear me out here. So I decided to build this build because they decided to change Lightning Strike in the patch notes. So you can see here that GGG confirmed that Lightning Strike had the incorrect numbers in the patch notes, and instead it's going to be buffed from what they said it was going to be. It no longer has added lightning damage. However, the damage effectiveness goes up from 225 to 456. So this is an increase of almost double, and you also no longer need the melee totems, of course. So that is really powerful. However, the mana cost did go up from 6 to 10, which is an annoyance, hence Blood Magic. But yeah, a lot of people have been really excited about Lightning Strike, and I do think that to a certain extent you could probably build Lightning Strike like in a multitude of ways and they would all be good and competitive. But I wanted to do like a different take on this skill. So let me share with you guys Blood Magic Lightning Strike dual wielding Gladiator. So where do I start? So let me just start with the configs. So for the numbers here, I have this set on, Shaper DPS. Everything here is pretty standard. Power charges from Assassin's Mark, Frenzy charges from the Mark Mastery, Trinity at 50 Resonance because you have 3 elements, and then Elusive from Nightblade. You have 15% shock due to having some lightning damage, and then intimidation from rage. So that's basically the setup here. And then for the custom modifiers, the rebalance of the gem gives us 100% more damage due to increasing the effectiveness by double here. And then Versatile Combatant is bugged right now, and if you are dual wielding and you take, well, not Versatile Combatant, if you take Determined Survivor and you do not have a shield, it actually gives you the 50% block anyway, which is a bug. So I have to compensate for that by doing minus 50. So I should probably rename this, Determined Survivor. And then with the new rage changes, there is a 53% more attack damage with 53 rage because rage now gives 1% more attack damage per rage, but that's not like available in the config right now. So there's this here. And then another thing that I didn't compensate for is the Gladiator node, War of Attrition, which gives you 1% more damage with hits to rare and unique enemies for every second that you've been in the fight, basically. And it can go up to 100%, but for the purposes of this PoE, I have this just totally disabled right now. But do bear in mind that if you were to fight a boss for 100 seconds, you would get double damage. So, or not 100 seconds, it would be 1 minute and 40 seconds, right? Yeah, 1 minute and 40 seconds. So the damage of this build would go up from like 5 million to like 10 million if the fight goes on for a very long time. So that's basically the setup for this build. And then here I do have Val Lightning Strike in here as well, because you can get like pretty consistent burst damage with that. But the main number that I'm interested in is the 2x Lightning Strike, which is 5 million Shaper DPS here. And this is all with like SSF viable gear and everything. So yeah, and then the 2x, for those of you who don't know, is because Lightning Strike hits twice. It hits one time with the projectile of your attack, and it hits another time with the melee hit from your additional strike, which you can get easily with a Searing Exarch implicit on your glove. So yeah, Lightning Strike has been around for a long time, so you guys are probably familiar with most of the mechanics, but yeah, it basically just double hits, and you get 4 projectiles from the gem itself, and then you get 1 more from multi-shot here for a total of 5. So that is basically your clear with the additional strike. And then you can also get like 1 pierce as well, which I got on the Eldritch Implicit on the glove, which helps out clear a little bit more. But I don't think you need pierce, but I think it's like nice to have 1. So that's that. Okay, now moving on to the build itself. So historically speaking, this build has been played using some kind of combination of evasion, spell suppression, and then either taken as or determination armor. But I wanted to try out the new Gladiator tech, which is basically you go for determined survivor and then more than skill to get lucky block. And then you take the new versatile combatant, which makes it very easy to cap attack and spell block. Previously, versatile combatant was -25, -25, but now they buffed it and it's only -10, -10. So it's a lot easier to cap attack and spell block with versatile combatant now. And then with determined survivor, you can double the inherent bonuses from dual wielding. So not only do you start off with a 40% chance to block attack damage, but you also get 20% more attack speed, which is pretty big in my opinion, especially considering how rare it is to get more attack speed. So there's that. And the main idea here is that because it's now so easy to scale block, you don't need evasion anymore. And since versatile combatant can give you spell block, you don't need suppression anymore. I wouldn't recommend this in hardcore, but I'm a softcore player, so I think this will be perfectly fine. And basically, the only block nodes that I'm taking are this one here, Swagger, and then this one here as the Mountain, and then I have like 3% here on Dervish, and then I have like 3% here on the small node, and then 3% here on the other small node. And that's basically all my investment in block, which is like not very much investment in block. It's just like 6 points, right? And this one gives damage, so it doesn't even count. It's basically 6 points of investment for 68, 65 lucky block. And the way that this lucky block works, first of all, if you have a value of like between 65 to 70 of something and you are lucky, that really means that if you see here, if you go to 65 and you go up here, you can see that it's like 87 to 91. So in this build, the lucky block translates to 90% block, which is a lot of block for 6 points of investment, right? But there is a condition here, which is that you only get the lucky block if you have blocked recently. So if you take like a big hit out of nowhere, it's 65 block instead of 90. But as soon as you take one hit, no matter how small, and you block it, your block goes to 90. And then it's a lot easier for you to block subsequent hits, which means that if you get hit like a little bit over and over, or you get bursted, then your block is going to be at 90 for a very long time, which I think is very powerful actually. I definitely misunderestimated this node at first, but I think this node is like very powerful, especially so in softcore, where I think block is like a little bit better, especially now that you can like get this kind of like 65, 65, 90, 90 block with like 6 points of investment. And you're dual wielding. You're not even wearing shield, which means that you get a lot of offense as well. As I mentioned, 20% more attack speed. And also being dual wielding means that you can take a lot of good dual wielding nodes in the tree. For example, Dervish gives you attack speed and damage. And then, you have Blade Barrier here, which is more damage and block together. Ambidexterity, which gives you a big chunk of damage. And then you also have Twin Terrors here, which gives you some pretty good crit scaling, which is basically like very similar crit scaling power as if you were going Nightblade, or as if you were going for like a one-handed claw setup. As you can see here, you have like 20 crit chance, 10 multi here, and that is like very similar to what you would get here. But there's another node on the Gladiator Ascendancy Weapon Master where it turns out that if you dual wield a dagger and a claw, you can get 20% more crit chance and 20% instant leech. And that 20% instant leech is really good because it saves you like 3 skill points. And you also don't have to take Val Pact, which has downsides. And then also with the dagger, you get 20% more critical strike chance, which is a very rare mod to have more critical strike chance. So if I take this off, versus I have it on, I get 15% crit chance, which is like 70 to like 85 crit chance, like just from this, which is really good. And then also if you dual wield 2 weapons of a different type, you can get this dual wielding mastery here, which is 60% increased damage with 1 point, which is very good value right there. So yeah, dual wielding, turns out that you can get very good block and damage with dual wielding. So that was why I wanted to go dual wielding in this build. And then the other things was, just replacing suppression with spell block that is sometimes lucky, replacing evasion with block chance, attack block, which is also sometimes lucky. And then you have avoidance, basically good. And the only thing you have to worry about then is, like PDR. And with PDR, you can solve this by going for armor bases. And they did mention that there's going to be new armor bases that are going to have even more armor and life than like we have in PoB right now. So whatever life value is in this PoB and whatever armor value is going to be more than in this PoB. So it'll probably be like 5.2, 5.3k life with like 8k, 9k armor or something, which I think is actually very reasonable for a softcore. And this is also without determination. This is another tech that I thought about, which is blood magic. And this is kind of interesting. This blood magic thing basically solves a bunch of different issues with 1 point. First of all, it gives you 10% more life, which is just very good. Also, a lot of the new skills, like Lightning Strike included, the mana cost went up in this case from 6 to 10, which is actually more annoying than you might think, because you either have to like waste points taking reservation minus mana cost, or you have to like craft a lot of minus cost on like all of your gear, and that's really annoying. So you can basically solve all your mana problems by clicking 1 keystone and get 10% more life. In addition, then you have an excuse to use Eternal Blessing. And in this build, I used Eternal Blessing with Anger. And this is actually giving me 3 million damage if I toggle this on. 3 million damage from Eternal Blessing Anger. And this is very interesting because, first of all, Eternal Blessing gives you more aura effect. So this Anger is running around with like 24% increased aura effect, in addition to 20% increased aura effect from the body implicit. And Anger, this league, in this build, is even better than it ever was, mainly because the added damage effectiveness of Lightning Strike went up. So, like, when you increase the added damage effectiveness of something from like 225 to 456, any kind of added damage is going to be like giga powerful, because previously that damage was in the form of totems, which was more attack speed and more attack damage or more melee damage or whatever. But now you can get a lot of damage by adding flat attack damage, and Anger is like a giga aura for adding added attack damage. So yeah, Eternal Blessing Anger with like some aura effect actually gives you a huge amount of damage in this case. So that's very good. I should also mention that in this PoB, so Lightning Strike did lose the added lightning damage. So I compensated for that by removing the lightning damage roll from my weapons. So these weapons do not have lightning damage added on them, but they should. Like when you're playing this, like when I'm playing this build, I'm going to definitely put added lightning damage on here, but I just removed it from here to compensate for the fact that it still has it in the gem in PoB. So gotta watch out for that one. Don't want to inflate the damage too much. But yeah, so yeah. And then also with the nerf to determination, you kind of feel less bad about removing determination. Determination was removed to have 1,000 less flat armor. So if I had like a normal mana build, like, and I had determination, like mana reservation determination, I would probably have like 15k armor. But after the nerf to determination, it would really be like 13, 12k armor, which is not too different from just not running it at all and just going for a blood magic, saving all the points on mana reservation, saving all the points on reduced mana cost, saving all those ring and amulet crafts on mana cost, and also having an excuse to run, Eternal Blessing Anger. And I could also make this build even better by crafting an additional prefix here, because you no longer need to reduce mana cost. So you could just craft like added lightning damage, and you could get like more damage here now that you have an open slot. So may as well just do that. Could also do the same thing on the amulet as well, since you have this here. You definitely want added lightning damage because of shock. So yeah, now we're up to 6 million damage with just lightning strike. So that's very good. So yeah, that's basically the main idea of this build. It's a little bit different, blood magic to solve the mana problems, and then and also to solve the reservation problems, replacing suppression with spell block, evasion with attack block, and then just having a lot of armor just from whatever buffed armor values we get on the gear. And then also with blood magic, you can get a lot of life, and the new bases as well are going to have even more life when they finally drop. So this build really is going to have like 5.3, 5.4k life. And then also because of this weapon master ascendancy node here, 20% of your leech is instant while wielding a claw. So that you have like 2,000 leech rate on this build. That's like, some of it is instant, so that's really good. And that also helps you a lot to enable Blood Rage, which you can do like automation Blood Rage, and the leech should be enough to handle whatever degen you get here. And you also have a little bit of life regen from Golem's blood to offset that. So that's basically the main idea of the build. And then the rest of the nodes in the tree are just like crit and accuracy and life. Oh, and then there's also rage, which I forgot to talk about as well. So their new rage rework is pretty interesting as well. The main thing you have to know here is that with these two wheels and this mastery, you can get a maximum of 53 rage. That is 30 base plus 10, which is 40, plus 7, which is 47, plus 3, which is 50, plus 3, which is 53. And then also we have in this build 5 rage on melee hit. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So with 5 rage on melee hit, you can gain rage at a rate of 10 rage per second, because every hit you gain 5 rage, and you can gain rage every 0.5 seconds as it shows here. So every second you can gain 10 rage with this setup. And then that means that in 5 seconds of attacking, you can ramp 50 rage, which is 50% more attack damage, which is crazy. That's like a lot of damage. And then additionally, with Veteran's Wrath, your rage loss begins 3 seconds after not gaining rage rather than 2 seconds. And then with the rage mastery up here, your loss of rage is 20%. Oh, well, this is loss of rage is faster, but that doesn't really matter. I just realized that was a downside and not an upside, but it doesn't really matter because, even if you like don't attack for 3 seconds and your rage goes down to 0, you can like get it right back by attacking for 5 more seconds. So that's definitely very convenient. So yeah, that's the build. Blood magic, lucky block, dual wielding lightning strike. What else is there to talk about? I guess the choice of dual wielding is interesting to talk about because you do have to dual wield a claw and a dagger. You can't use a sword because Nightblade can only be used with claws and daggers. So You have that. Oh, I forgot to take out inspiration. Wait, this is a mistake. I forgot to take out inspiration because inspiration doesn't work if you don't spend mana. Okay, good thing I didn't publish this video without doing that. But yeah, I had that in for testing something else. But I guess you could just do like added cold damage, which is like just as good because again, adding damage is powerful because Lightning Strike is gaining a lot of added damage effectiveness. So a gem like added cold damage is actually like pretty good. So yeah, so this is like the setup that I think I'm gonna run. 6 million DPS on Shaper with just Lightning Strike. And if you drop the Val Lightning Strike, you can get 9 million DPS. And then if the fight goes on for a very long time, you can gain an additional more multiplier ranging between 1 to 100, depending on how many seconds that you are in the fight for. And all that basically translates to a lot of damage. Like this build with everything, like in a long fight, is like 18 million damage. And even like with the lowest possible like damage, it's like 6 million damage, assuming that you attacked for 5 seconds to generate rage, which like you're gonna have that, so yeah, it's crazy. Like this build is pretty good. And the funniest thing ever is that I have like 4 empty sockets here because like normally the melee totems would go here, but I have like 4 empty sockets. I don't even know what to put in there. I think I have everything in here that I need. I have Assassin's Mark, Precision, Whirling Blades, Frostblink if you need an instant movement thing. You can like raise the level of this to whatever you want. Cast 1 damage taken Molten Shell for the like 8,000, 9,000 armor that the build's gonna have. Even could fit in an increased duration. And also Berserk, which you can even turn on Berserk for like another 4 million DPS if you want to turn that on, which I have off in PoE, obviously. And then also, because you're blood magic, you don't need life tap in anything because you're blood magic. And also another benefit of blood magic is that you don't have to do Arrogance Precision because Arrogance has like a 200% multiplier on it. So you would lose like even more life if you were not blood magic. So you can save like a lot of life by using blood magic and just have precision, just like here. And then, yeah, Eternal Blessing Anger and Blood Rage Automation, is normal stuff. And then, yeah, I have 4 empty sockets here that I have no idea what I would put in here. If you know what I could put in here, I guess, let me know. Can't think of anything. I guess you could put a Golem, but I don't like Golems. You could also put Val Haste, but I would prefer to have my Val charges go into Val Lightning Strike rather than Val Haste, because this is a good ability to have. So, yeah. But I mean, I guess you could put Val Haste, but I wouldn't. I guess you could also put a banner, but I didn't find any banners that were, like, worth it. Like, there are some banners, but none of the banners I think are particularly good for this build. There is, like War Banner is just physical damage, which I think is unfair, because why is there a banner for physical damage or physical melee damage, but not for elemental melee damage? That seems a bit unfair to me and kind of cringe. I think there should be a banner that benefits elemental melee skills, so that's kind of annoying. And then Defiance Banner is just like movement speed. You can get like 40% movement speed in like a small area, and like suppression, but you don't really need that for this build. I don't know, seems weird to put a banner down just to give movement speed. And then Dread Banner is a meme. You would never want conditional block. The life on block is maybe interesting. Let's do some quick math here. 19 life on block with 50 Valor. You have 5 times of the aura effect, which is like 100 life on block. So you would place the banner to get 100 life on block for like 10 seconds, which seems very mediocre to me. So I don't know if I even want to use a banner. Like I should probably use Dread Banner just for that defensive thing. I don't know, maybe you would maybe I'll put that in there actually, Because I'm thinking like if you fight an essence and the essence monster is like shooting that lightning bullshit at you and you have 90% lucky block and you block like 9 out of 10 of the hits, that's like 900 life gain in like a fast amount of time with a life on block. Yeah, maybe there is some case to use Dread Banner. Let's put that in there. But I'm gonna disable this because this is not updated yet. So yeah, this is gonna be the new Dread Banner. And then I wonder if you can also do increased duration on the banner. Is this gonna work with the new banners? Because it's no longer, the increased duration may or may not work for the new banner, but I'll put this in here just like for testing because I have nothing else in here anyway. So yeah. And then need 2 empty slots. I don't know, cast on death portal or whatever you want to put in here. So yeah, that's basically the build. Yeah. And then for gearing, you know, dual wielding a dagger and a claw for the ascendancy bonuses here, and also for a dual wielding mastery here, and also for Nightblade. Oh, you also have to take a small node here for leech. Gotta take 1 point there. And then it turns out that, I mean, the best claw base is still Imperial Claw, and then the best dagger base, I think, is Poignard. This is the fastest attacking dagger base that also has the highest base crit chance. So I think this is the best one. There is another dagger base called Ambusher, which is like more PDPS, but this build is not PDPS, so you don't need it. And also Ambusher requires like a higher amount of intelligence. So I'm gonna go with the Poignard. I probably said that wrong. And the 4 armor pieces are just whatever highest armor pieces that you can find, whatever they're gonna be the next patch. Implicits are just whatever, you know, increased shock effect, crit multi, anger effect, strike skills target 1 additional is very important, and then pierce is for clear, and then action speed elusive just for like more scaling. And then ailment immunity, I guess the downside of not having a shield is that you can't get true ailment immunity, but I've always been a fan of using Brine King and Garricon. Brine King and Garricon together with the boot craft of reduced effective chill and shock gives you like shock immune, or like 100% reduced effective shock, and then like 90% reduced effective chill, which has been good enough for most content that I've wanted to do. And then the only bad thing here is that you don't have ignite immune, but you do have a lot of instant leech, and you do have normal leech as well. So you do have some way to not die to ignites. And then bleed immune is just from the life flask. And then, you know, Agate Amulet for the stats. Also, another thing that's cool about this build is that if you go dual wielding, you can craft 2 different crafts of attribute crit chance. So like you get an extra like 22 strength and int, whereas if you were doing like a one-handed build, you would not get one of these rolls. So that's very convenient for like attribute requirements. And then just Amethyst Ring for Chaos Res, and yeah, Stygian Bias, you know, armor, wed, life, you know, just nice stats. And then yeah, it's not too hard to cap res. Also, with this variant, it's a lot easier to cap res because you don't have to worry about crafting suppression. You can just get like triple res on every gear, which is very convenient. And then yeah, and then also not needing to worry about mana costs due to being blood magic. You get to craft 3 prefixes on all the jewelry, as I maybe mentioned before. So yeah, all the jewelry prefixes is going to be life, elemental damage with attacks, and added lightning damage, all of which is like giga value. So yeah, and then Stygian Vice or Leather Belt, and then just like a jewel with like crit multi or whatever. I guess you could also take this jewel 1 step further as well if you wanted to, with like added lightning damage. I mean, I don't know. The problem with this is added for like a specific weapon type. So if you get added lightning damage with Dagger, it's not gonna apply to the hits from the claw. So it's kind of whatever if you get this or not. But yeah, getting multi in life is, you know, good as well. And then I guess one thing that I did run into some trouble with is I was not able to get like 100% crit chance just like all the time. But you can always just run like a diamond flask that has like flask charge on crit, because you do crit a lot on this build, obviously. And having one flask with flask charge on crit is like pretty reasonable. And just like press this whenever you have charges. And if you press this, you basically go up to 100% crit chance, more or less. So yeah, you do kind of rely on this. You don't rely on it. I mean, you have 6 million damage without it, but with the diamond flask, you have like 1.5 mil extra. So why not? And then the other flasks are just like quicksilver, granite, quartz. Quartz is just for the movements, just for the phasing, because I couldn't really figure out a good way to get phasing without this. But yeah. And then granite for the armor, pop this to get like 5,000 more armor, and then quicksilver just for movement speed. And then life flask with bleed immune. Another cool thing about this build is that when you block, I think it does count as being hit. So if I'm understanding this correctly, like if you get hit and you block the hit, it will give you flask charges compared to like if you evaded that hit or something. So that's like a little bit more power for the flask charge gain on hit mod. So yeah, that's like a cool interaction. I'm actually kind of curious how that's going to play out. Like, what if you just stand in like some monsters and you trigger your lucky 90/90 block? Like, are you just going to have like infinite flasks? That'd be kind of funny. If it's like enough regen, you could also change the diamond flask to also be charge on hit. It's, I don't know. There's like a lot of things to like experiment with and like mess around with, but yeah. Oh, and then for the anointment, it's just divine judgment. This turned out to be like the most damage one. So I just have that here. And I think that's basically it. I think I basically covered everything on here. Yeah, I think everything here is covered. All the points, all the gear, all the skills. Oh, I guess one thing that the build doesn't have is Culling Strike, which is interesting. Yeah, because this mark wheel here is more damage than this mark wheel here, which has 2 dead nodes. So, but then I guess you are missing out on Culling Strike if you don't get this. Yeah, that's definitely interesting. I mean, I guess you could always like remove Divine Judgment and anoint Culling Strike. I guess that's one bad thing about not having melee totems, is that it's now like a little bit more difficult to apply Culling Strike and Maim, because you can no longer do like melee totem Culling Strike, and you don't really have another good way to like automate Culling Strike. So yeah, that's a thing. So yeah, maybe it's better to anoint Marked for Death rather than Divine Judgment, but then having a bigger hit would mean that you get bigger shocks as well. So I don't know. Yeah, I guess I need to figure out a way to get Culling Strike on this build, or maybe just like don't get it. I don't know, because that would be a thing. Because now that they've removed melee totems completely, I don't know if there's a way to like create an entity that can hit enemies. I mean, maybe you could do like a brand skill. Is that a thing? That's definitely a little bit unhinged. Like maybe you could do something like, I don't know, stick a random penance brand in there with Culling Strike, and as soon as some boss is like low HP, you just drop the penance brand on them for Culling Strike. I mean, I guess you could do this. It definitely seems kind of sweaty, but like, in theory, it's gonna work, right? In theory, this would work. Maybe for like Shaper or whatever, but I don't think this build's gonna have damage problems, so this is kind of meme. Yeah, I'll probably take this out, but you could maybe do something like that. But yeah, that's basically the build. Oh yeah, and then for the bandit, I think I'm gonna go with Caitlyn just for the movement speed. I think 8% movement speed for 1 point is like pretty good, especially because this build doesn't have like super giga movement speed. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Creighton. So yeah. And yeah, that's basically the build. Yep. Also one other caveat that I should mention is that, so if you have melee hit here, the game could actually debate you into taking these nodes here that give you melee critical strike chance, like dismembering and disemboweling, but you actually don't want that because you only get 50% of the value from that. So like taking this would increase my melee hit, but it would not increase the projectile hit at all, as you can see. So you don't want to take things that only give you melee bonuses, because when you're doing single target with lightning strike, there is a melee component and a projectile component that is hitting one target. So you want to take things that apply to both melee and projectile attacks. For example, like lethality, which applies to all aspects, the melee and the projectile part of the projectile attack skill. So yeah. Okay, so that's basically the build. This is basically the league start build that I've found to be, that like I think is the best that I've tried to come up with. I also did try to come up with like a Lacerate Glad, and I tried to PoE like Ice Crash Ignite Chieftain or whatever, or Elementalist, but they didn't seem very good. I found it very challenging to get above like 2 million DPS on like Bleed Glad or like, you know, Ignite Ice Crash. So I got kind of demotivated. But like the damage numbers on this build, this lightning strike build, is like totally crazy for a league starter. And like all my gear is like totally SSF craftable as well. And another benefit of this particular variant is that you don't need lightning coil. You know, you don't need lightning coil at all because you rely on armor for PDR, and you don't need suppression either because of block. So yeah, no lightning coil, 0 uniques required for this build. Everything is craftable in SSF easily. You can probably like max out this build in like a week, maybe, depending on how much you play. But this build will have like a huge amount of power very early on. Yeah, definitely Lightning Strike is, I think, going to be one of the meta skills for sure next league, no matter what variant you decide to play. But I just thought this Gladiator variant was cool. I've always wanted to play a block build. And I think now is the chance. You know, 90-90 lucky block with 6 points of investment is very powerful. Well, technically 7. And then, yeah, the whole lucky block thing seems really cool. And then War of Attrition, I think, will also be really cool as well. Just like doubling your damage from like 6 mil to 12 mil, like as the fight goes on. It's just perfect, you know? Like, it's just perfect. Like, if you ever find yourself in a point where you have low damage, you can get carried by War of Attrition. It's perfect. And then, yeah. So, yeah, that's basically the build. I think this build's going to be really fun. I am almost 99% sure going to start this variant of Lightning Strike next league. So, yeah. Let me know if you have any comments or questions about this build or any suggestions as well. Again, all of this tech is like new tech, so there may be some things I'm like not seeing here. There may be like some oversights or something that I just don't know of. So, you know, suggestions, questions, comments, you know, I'm open to them. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of this build. I think it's going to be pretty interesting. And yeah, I'll 99%, I'm 99% going to like play this on League Start and just see how it goes. So yeah, cool. All right. Nice. Way under an hour this time. Very good. Way under an hour. All right, that's it for this video. See you guys in the next one.